Hey, welcome Wolfpack Nation to CALS Tailgate at Home. We're on campus. We're going to give you some barbecue tips that hopefully you can get the same feel that you might have been at Carter Finley Stadium. Well, the thing I'm going to do today is give you an example of how to prepare some ribs. Now, there's a lot of ways to make successful smoked barbecue ribs, and this is just one method that I think you'll find useful. It's pretty simple, but it really brings home the bacon, so to speak, or the ribs. So what I've got on the table is an example of a pork back rib, and I've also got an example of some other ribs here to kind of give you some comparison. So on a pork carcass, we've got two different types of ribs. We've got back ribs, which are high on the hog or up near the loin, and then we've got ribs or spare ribs that are down lower, are part of the belly primal. Now, your preference of what style rib you like to prepare, that's totally a personal thing. I'm a spare rib guy, so we're gonna prep spare ribs and show you the 3-2-1 method of how to make barbecue. So we'll start with this spare rib. Now, this spare rib, if you look at it, it's a pretty unwieldy looking animal right now, and it needs a little work before we get it ready for the smoker that I've got here, or the big green egg. Now, the first stage is to take our knife, cut away from yourself, all those kind of rules that apply here. But we're gonna take this whole piece or strap, or what's called the sternum, off of this spare rib. Now, you can actually treat this just like ribs. There's a lot of meat on here. I wouldn't throw it away, certainly. But the point of making a St. Louis is that after you get done with the smoking of the product, the ribs are now cut, or you're much easier to get a knife in between each one of these ribs and cut portions, cut single rib portions. So the next stage, after you've got this rib trimmed or trimmed the way you like it, the next stage is to put a dry rub on it. Now, at NC State, we use a very simple rub. It's just NC State's meat rub. It's actually salt and pepper with a little bit of garlic and a little bit of onion powder in it, and that's about it. But it's mostly coarse black pepper and coarse salt, or kosher salt. So the next stage is to liberally coat the outside of this rib with the dry rub. And you don't have to get real hard on it. You don't have to physically rub it in like the name implies, but just give it a nice liberal coating on both sides. Okay, it's been about 3 hours. We're gonna check these ribs to see how they're coming along. I say it's been 3 hours, but it's really been closer to about 2.5, and that's something that's gonna vary based on the temperature that you run your smoker. A little hotter, it's gonna be a little shorter. If it's a little lower temperature, you might hit that 3-hour timeline. But as we open, I'm gonna go to the smoker, we'll pull these ribs out. I've got a clean cutting board here. We gotta remember food safety. You wanna, if you cut the raw ribs on the cutting board, you wanna be sure that you take it to the sink and clean it up good, that you're not gonna increase your risk of cross-contamination and possibly get some people sick. So as we go to the grill, pull this off. So you'll notice on these ribs, it's changed color, so that's been exposed to smoke for the 2.5 hours. But it's also that cook time, you'll notice that the ribs are starting to pull away from the meat. And that's a telltale sign that they're ready for the next step of the 3-2-1 method. So we're gonna put some sauce, we're gonna wrap these in foil, put some sauce over these, put them back on the smoker for another 2 hours, and that's gonna finish the process. It's gonna break down the connective tissue, or what we refer to as collagen, which is what makes meat tough. It's gonna break that collagen down and make that nice, juicy, soft textured barbecue rib that we all love. So we put these ribs on a piece of foil, okay? Now, there's a lot of different variations of the rubs and the sauces that you can use. Here's what I like to use. The first thing I use, and this might be a little bit out of the norm, is margarine. Don't use butter, use margarine. The margarine has a higher smoke point, or it's not gonna burn like butter will, but it's still gonna give us some of that buttery flavor that goes well or matches well with these ribs. So give it a squirt down the middle. The next thing I put on is some brown sugar. Can be light, can be dark, whatever you've got in the kitchen. And just liberally apply, I'm gonna say this is probably a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Next is a little bit of hot and sweet, put a little of that over the top. Honey or agave, this is some more sweet. This is agave syrup. And then, of course, we're gonna put some barbecue sauce on it. Today we're using Howling Hog barbecue sauce, which is a sauce that we make here in the Food Science Department at NC State. You can buy it at the Creamery, which is on Lake Wheeler Road when you come to campus. Get yourself some ice cream and get yourself some sauce. Okay, now that we've got that all mixed in on those ribs, we just make a tent, or we foil this back up, okay? And they're gonna go back onto the smoker for 2 hours. All right, it's been another 2 hours, or again, closer to about an hour and a half. We've shaved some time off of this with the temperature that we're using today. Let's go to the grill and take a look at what these ribs look like. Okay, this is the moment of truth. All right, they look great. I like to just finish them off with a little bit more of the sauce. Okay, this Howling Hog barbecue sauce, which is in your Tailgate at Home pack. There should be a bottle of that in there, so you can use this. And just brush it on, make them look pretty. You might even take some of that sauce and put it in a little pan on the stove just to warm it up, just to heat it up a little bit, so you're not putting cold sauce onto hot ribs. Now we're gonna be able to get a knife in between these ribs much easier and cut individual portions. So those are barbecue spare ribs with the 3-2-1 method. I hope these are some helpful tips that you can use at your own CALS Tailgate at Home.